it was a certain time in Delhi where there were areas and pockets where people, pockets of creativity where people were starting to do things of their own.
And also, I had gotten married. I was trying to set up my house, and there was nothing that I liked that I could afford.
In Delhi.
Yeah.
But Delhi is supposed to be the god of shopping, you know. सब यहाँ से
Yeah.
जाते हैं that okay, let's go to
So
this bazaar, that
there
bazaar.
was Good Earth, which is really beautiful, but out of my budget. Then there was Janpat and Home Center. There was nothing.
There
in
were
the-
two extremes. So yeah, so
there
you
was
had
a
the
gap in the market that we felt, and we decided, okay, why don't we try to fill this gap? So when you travel abroad, you will see this a lot. Is that especially in the West, that most of the tags in the shops on the products will say "Made in India."
Okay.
So one thinks कि ये ऐसे कैसे है कि वहाँ मिल रहा है
Such
और
a
यहाँ
nice
बन रहा है,
product.
हाँ, तो हिंदुस्तान में क्यों नहीं मिल रहा?
yeah. So there was still nothing in the mix of international aesthetic and also in that mid range.
In the price points.
So how many names before you finalized on the wishing chair?
Oh
It
my
was
God,
just
so
an
many.
afternoon, yeah.
Someone, I mean, even your husband thought we should just recall it decor point. The whole idea was this sense of magical nostalgia when you entered. It was supposed to be transportative, and it was supposed to have this appeal of you can transform your space into something like the wishing chair idea of going anywhere in the world. So we first started with just curation and just with like 5 pieces of each. And then we hired our first designer and built out a team where now we design everything and then we get them manufactured by across 40 different factories in India.
Yes, I definitely got a lot of pushback saying that you studied all this, MBA किया था, इतनी अच्छी नौकरी है. Why are you leaving all this to become a shopkeeper? I really feel that if there was a place you could go to get guidance on, these are the rules, these are the compliances, this is what you need from an accounts perspective, this is what you need from a tax perspective. अगर आप ये 15 चीजें कर लोगे तो आप सारे rules follow कर रहे हो. I really wish there was that depository. First thing, you should get a really good lawyer and a CA on board and not scrimp on that. And ask them to spend a day or 2 or 5 or whatever days with you to help you set up processes for all compliances that need to be followed, so then there are no gaps in hindsight. Even right now in India, there is no point of sale software that talks to your online software, that talks to your ERP, that talks to your CRM. Sab alag-alag
I mean, that
bubbles
talks
mein.
to your point of sale on.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I think in India, we end up having a lot of pilferage of money in just figuring stuff out and losing money and all of this stuff.
What was your lowest point? Like where you were like, shit, ये क्या किया हमने?
I think that we opened a very fancy store in DLF Mall in Saket in Delhi.
Opposite the cinema, because there was a lot of footfall at the cinemas.
20 days before pandemic.
Hello everyone, Jaskiran Kapoor here with Just Talking, and with me are two fabulous founders of a brand that is so quirky and bright and intelligent and right on point with everything. I love it. It's called the Wishing Chair. So on to the founders who are all the way here from Delhi to Chandigarh, Vivita and Avneet. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you, and thank you for the extremely flattering introduction.
So Wishing Chair has been there around since 2012. So सबसे पहले I would like to know कि what was life before Wishing Chair, the Wishing Chair?
So we were both in different professions. Both of us were friends and knew each other. I used to work as a journalist and used to actually do food. And I actually started a small restaurant with a friend.
Okay.
And
I used to work in the corporate world. I used to work, I worked for 8 years before this in sales and marketing. And then I left my job, and then together we started Wishing Chair.
But you know, how do you make this career switch? Because एक होता है ना that okay, you've grown up, you've done these studies, and you're settled in a career. What is that turning point or the trigger that makes you realize कि no, let's take a risk, let's do this career switch?
I think this was in 2012. So yes, at those times, it wasn't very common to do something like especially since she was in a very, well-paying job and had a certain career path. I was in a totally different profession. The only thing is that we also had friends who did that, who kind of did switch up and started to do really well. So that inspired us. So you felt like, okay, maybe this is something that can work for us. It was a certain time in Delhi where there were areas and pockets where people, pockets of creativity where people were starting to do things of their own.
And also, I had gotten married. I was trying to set up my house, and there was nothing that I liked that I could afford.
In Delhi.
Yeah.
But Delhi is supposed to be the god of shopping, you know. सब यहाँ से जाते हैं that okay, let's go to this bazaar, that
there
bazaar.
was Good Earth, which is really beautiful, but out of my budget. Then there was Janpat and Home Center. There was nothing.
There
in
were
the
two extremes. So yeah, so
there
you
was
had
a
the
gap in the market that we felt, and we decided, okay, why don't we try to fill this gap? So we started doing some research, figuring out what we liked, कहाँ से मिलेगा, कैसे करें, and then धीरे it.
So कहाँ से, like, how did you get the products? Because from my understanding, the wishing chair is a women-led team with two
Yeah.
women founders.
Yeah, and everything we sell is designed and made in India.
Okay, because that usually people say ना कि ये तो Bangkok से ले आए होंगे, या you know that whole Southeast Asian market where everybody goes in shops के you can get it there also, है ना? So how did you start with the product, with the collection? You know, see, you have an idea, but how do you like start with the idea? From which point do you start?
शुरू में we started to figure out where are the manufacturers of this. Also, when you travel abroad, you will see this a lot, is that, especially in the West, that most of the tags in the shops on the products will say made in India.
Okay.
So one thinks कि ये ऐसे कैसे है कि वहाँ मिल रहा है
Such
और
a
यहाँ
nice
बन रहा है,
product.
हाँ, तो हिंदुस्तान में क्यों नहीं मिल रहा?
yeah. Over
Any
here,
product you remember which you looked at and you said कि अरे
lot of the
stoneware.
and the decorative pieces, lot of recycled wooden kind of
Yeah.
stuff you see abroad, and you're like, why is this not available in India if it's getting made in India? So then
Okay.
one heard that, okay, ये तो सारा export हो रहा है. So who is this person who's exporting? So that's where we slowly made inroads into these manufacturers.
So we actually went to like Muradabad the
Yeah.
first time, and we started approaching them. We just had a list on an Excel sheet, and we just called them up, and we just said, "Can we come meet you?" And then we'd go meet them, and then they would just look at us very suspiciously, like, "Who are you?" And we're like, "You know what? We just want to start something. We just want to see if it works. So just give us 5 extra pieces of whatever you have." So that's how we started. And in fact, then they told us, maybe you should like go to a trade fair or something.
Yeah. Then we went to international trade fairs, went
Yes.
everywhere, figured out how the business works, how it is.
found the dealers and the buyers.
Yeah.
You found the route.
Yeah. And then we built our team, like a design team. Now we have a 12 people team.
Yeah,
in
so
the
we
office.
first started
Okay.
with just curation and just with like 5 pieces of each. And then we hired our first designer and built out a team where now we design everything and then we get them manufactured by across 40 different factories in India.
Oh, nice. And Muradabad is the place jahan se a lot of things are exported.
Muradabad is one
Metal.
of many
One.
cities.
Muradabad is basically a metal city. So anything you want to do with, say, brass or iron or steel, then it's a good place.
So when you began with the wishing chair, what was it? You focused on decor first. What are the segments now? What are the verticals from what you started and to now?
So to start with,
in
there
these
was
12 years.
when we started, there was no like, oh, we're going to just do this category or we're just going to do this, because then a lot of it was limited by funds. We're a totally bootstrapped company, limited by what the factories would allow us to take and allow us to curate. So a lot of it was a mix, in fact, in the beginning of
Home
furniture
decor.
and
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we decided it was going to be a home decor store.
Yeah.
And now we have 3 verticals: dining, decor, and gifting.
Okay.
Yeah, but then it was a mix of furniture, it was a mix of decor, decorative. We didn't actually have much dining then because we didn't have designers that were designing anything for us.
Okay.
So it was
Okay.
decor
So when
and furniture.
you know when you say bootstrapped, if someone has to start a business, how much of your energy, financial and emotional, went into it? Because you are telling your family that we are leaving these jobs. Like we were chatting about the safety net of a regular
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
You are telling yourself and your family कि ये मैं छोड़ रही हूँ.
Huh.
I'm diving into something new. That was a time when startup India was not very big.
Yeah.
Digital India was
And there
not
was
very
no
big.
venture capital.
And there was-
There were
Yeah, there was
there
no
were no these
funding.
angels and fundings and
Yeah.
anything. So
And
at that
programs.
point to have this pivot, what was the motivation and how was it received?
it is really important to have a support structure. I think for me, I'm very privileged that I had parents who supported me. Also, I wasn't married and didn't have to support a family or support kids. So that makes a big difference, right? That allows me much more freedom to make it have experiments and things. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to be on the road, and it's not like then someone else is going to suffer. It's something that then I can just take on myself. Versus
We were young, and when you're young, the world is at your feet, kind of a thing. कि कुछ ना कुछ तो हो ही जाएगा, कर ही लेंगे, देख लेंगे. And my husband was working, so that was okay. But yes, I definitely got a lot of pushback saying that you studied all this, MBA किया था, इतनी अच्छी नौकरी है. Why are you leaving all this to become a shopkeeper? So obviously there was a lot of pushback, but I knew that I want to do this and I want to try something else out. I didn't like my job, and so we did.
Did you give yourself a timeline कि we'll try this for 2 years, देखते हैं क्या होता है?
नहीं, ऐसा तो I did not have. It was not, failing was not an option.
Yeah, you one didn't think. See, you just saw the gap and you're like, we're just gonna fly through this gap and it'll be
कि हो ही नहीं
amazing.
सकता, I don't do it.
So how much did you put initially into buying
So when
your
we started
products?
it, we put like 25 lakhs
each, yeah.
25 lakhs each, and then it further.
It was 2 of you then.
Yeah.
And now the team is?
So it's still two of us as the founders, and
We have about a 40 people team.
Okay, interesting. So you've been friends for how long now? Because this goes back long.
99, 2000?
no, 2001 to 2001 to
2001.
And so while growing up, were you always interested in interiors, in decorating the house? Like girls are with little tea parties and dolls. Because sometimes the wishing chair comes from Enid Blyton's
Yes.
Blyton's book. So
So
it
I was
has to have some
obsessed-
connect.
I was obsessed more with stories and and books than with interiors for sure. I didn't have that obsession or any of that inclination as a kid. I think then it was more about flying into this other world or having this other, being taken away into a magical space, and not necessarily about making this space magical.
Okay.
Which is now what I think.
So
what the
she
Vision
lends
Chair is
the
about.
magical
Yeah.
touch to it.
Yeah, she's the creative person who
Okay.
drives a lot of that. And I think that for me, I was always like obsessed with problem solving.
Okay.
So for me it was always like, अच्छा अब ये है तो इसको ठीक कैसे करें, इसको इसमें और क्या कर सकते हैं, इसको बड़ा कैसे कर. For me it was always that. So that's where I came in, that there's a gap in this market. Now
Yeah.
how are we gonna...
But of Neat, since she was the one who got married pretty young, before like all of us, so she was always like a little bit more of the grown up, and so she always had her own house and the hosting. So it was in those that we would see, oh, okay, there's this gap here. You can't do this, you can't do that. While the rest of us were still like living like kids, right? So it
Yeah,
was
I could
usually
figure out that, okay, if I want to have my friends over, there are not enough interesting platters to put out. There are no chip bowls, koi nahi bech raha hai. Glasses are just plain white. Where should I get artwork for my house? Where should I do this? So there was none of that available to me. So those were the gaps.
No, I
and
think
wanted
the
to
very
solve for that.
traditional things were available.
Yeah.
You were looking for something more
Yeah.
out of the
So
box
either
and
it was
quirky.
extremely very ethnic and Indian, and like you could go to a Fab India, or you could go to like Amar Colony or something in Delhi, or like she was
I
saying,
mean, I
it was
didn't have
very
home
good.
then.
I didn't have home.
Yeah.
Or you could go to a Good Earth. So there was still nothing in the mix of international aesthetic and also in that mid range.
In the price point.
So how many names before you finalized on the wishing chair?
Oh
It
my
was
god,
just
so
an
many.
afternoon, yeah.
Someone, I mean, even your husband thought we should just call it decor point. We had lots of weird names.
Yeah, so it was a whole afternoon of yay. Then we're like, no, let's just go with this.
So we went with this because, I mean,
It was our favorite, one of our favorite books.
Exactly. It was like the whole idea was this sense of magical nostalgia when you enter. It was supposed to be transportative, and it was supposed to have this appeal of you can transform your space into something like the wishing chair idea of going anywhere in the world.
And it has grown, and you also have the Mad Teapot Cafe over there.
So we did have them pre-COVID in all our stores, but once COVID hit and we couldn't have people dine in anymore, so we decided to pivot the business a lot more to the online space and also made our stores smaller to ensure our costs remain real and something that we can afford. So we don't have the cafes anymore. As a brand, we're focusing much more on product and on e-commerce.
So when you began in these 12 years, what has the journey been like? What were your major challenges, roadblocks that you faced? Okay, this is you're sourcing material from across India. You're designing also, sending designs कि आप ये बना दो, इतना चाहिए. There's a lot of logistics involved, a lot
Yeah.
of rules and regulations involved, a lot of licensing, registration. Then there's GST. So what were the roadblocks that you faced, and you would wish ke these things are smoothened out for especially women entrepreneurs or any entrepreneur?
I really feel that if there was a place you could go to get guidance on, these are the rules, these are the compliances, this is what you need from an accounts perspective, this is what you need from a tax perspective. अगर आप ये 15 चीजें कर लोगे तो आप सारे rules follow कर रहे हो. I really wish there was that depository.
The problem is, and you know, because even with the restaurant business and even with this, the thing is that only as you go along do people tell you things. I think I think India again, people don't really explain things to you. They just tell you then, and then after that, in hindsight, oh, you have to pay this fine. Oh, because you didn't do this, and you have to pay this fine because you didn't do that, and you're just like, why didn't anyone say anything? It's like, well, you didn't ask. You're like, I didn't even know to ask. Like, you don't know what you don't know, and the system is extremely complicated. She's the one responsible.
What
for
were the
that,
learnings? कि ये करना चाहिए हमें. This is where we should have airtight,
I feel like first thing you should get a really good lawyer and a CA on board and not scrimp on that. And ask them to spend a day or 2 or 5 or whatever days with you to help you set up processes for all compliances that need to be followed. So then there are no gaps in hindsight. That's number one. Another thing we face a lot of challenges with is initially getting our MOQs. Like there's a minimum order quantity that a supplier will make for you. So how to figure that out, how to get that to work. That is number two. Third was tech. Now it's a lot easier, but earlier, even right now in India, there is no point of sale software that talks to your online software, that talks to your ERP, that talks to your CRM. Sab alag alag
and then
bubbles
that talks
mein.
to your point of sale on
So
that
bubble
stores.
mein hai.
Yeah.
So to figure all of that and to make it come together, that's another big challenge.
And just like even accounting software, that kind of,
Yeah.
you know, again, America, everything is kind of just laid out and smoothly put. When you hear these blogs and about entrepreneurs over there, that's very much plug and play. Over here, although
Yeah.
it's much better than maybe
Yeah.
it was 5 years ago, even, it's still a lot of figuring things out and losing a lot of. So that's the thing. I think in India we end up having a lot of pilferage of money in just figuring stuff out and losing money and all of this stuff, which is where.
but you've got
things
smarter over
nowadays-
the years.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you making a profit? As in, what is your target audience, and what are you breaking even and taking back home a chunk of?
Chunk to nahi kahenge.
Yeah, because a lot of money is put back into the. We're still in the scaling phase. We're still growing.
Okay.
So we've not come to that point now where we've said, okay, now everything that's profit, we'll take a big chunk. We're putting it back into more product, into opening more stores, into widening our distribution.
Like how now we're selling here in the vanity box.
You're going to now sell at the vanity box.
Yeah.
This is not just a one-day collab. It's a
No.
proper sale
We
point.
hope not.
But you're not going to open a separate store here?
No, I don't think so. I think that we have a great relationship with Priya, and I think that she has enough space to
Yes,
put
yes, beautiful space that had to.
Yeah.
But like you say, e-commerce ka aa gaya hai, and there are a lot of other players in the market also.
Yeah.
Craftsville aa gaya, Nestasia aa gaya. There are 3-4 more brands that are also aggressively moving ahead in the decor space.
Yeah.
So how do you compete with that? How do you keep your product separate? I know your Alice in Wonderland was a hit. I think it was a bestseller. So what is your design sensibility, and how do you differentiate yourself from all these to stay ahead of the curve?
See, we're really, I mean, our whole brand is built around women, for women, by women. So that's a huge part of who we are. Like, we're an extremely feminine brand, and we're proud of it. We don't shy away from it. And I think that's how because it's such a strong feminine brand, we have this strong women community that kind of keep giving us feedback on what they like, and we love to take it and kind of create new product with it. So that's why we feel that we have that niche with women from between ages like 18 to 50 who are house proud or who love to do their homes up and who want to buy stuff for like their teenage daughters and things like that, who have a very strong emotional connect.
So you
with
also
our
price
stuff.
it like that, because 18-year-old won't be able to buy what a 50-year-old can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you price how do you get that right?
So see, there are certain categories that a younger audience buys, and there's a certain categories a slightly older audience buys. So we keep that in mind when we're working on pricing strategy and what will work for her, what will work for the mom, and what will work for the daughter.
Daughter. Okay.
So that's how it kind of comes about to be. And also, I think that what is that we since we are a design team and we design everything ourselves, the edit of what goes into the store in terms of the collection is super tight.
Okay.
It's not that we'll go and buy what is available.
Yeah.
It'll be what we want to put out there, which will be very, very coherent with our design aesthetic. So the story will always be told in the way that we want it.
It's
What
a
is-
consistent story towards what our customer wants.
So what has been your design aesthetic? Has it been a very Enid Blyton wishing chair, Mallory Tars
Yeah,
and Drew, Nancy Drew
I
world?
think it's evolved over years because even our customer has evolved. So it started off from being a very sort of floral and feminine aesthetic, and now it's a much more artful aesthetic, a lot more about using Indian techniques because everything is made in India. So it's about using Indian techniques in feminine forms.
I think a lot of ceramics and pottery you're getting, and metal.
Yes.
Right?
And wood, and we do a lot of soft furnishings.
Okay. And men are also house proud. Do you have a recall, like a
Not
repeat
so much.
male customer
No,
buying?
they buy gifts from us.
They buy
well,
gifts.
if they want to make their the women in their life happy. But again, like you're saying, since there's so many, other
There is a
brands,
metrosexual man who
there's
likes
so many brands coming in. You
Gay men love us.
as a as a brand, you can't be everything to everyone, and that's the mistake sometimes people make. That if you try to be everything to everyone, you can just get lost in the
Yeah, no one to no one.
yeah. Exactly.
So that clarity has to be there when you start your brand. कि आप किसके लिए बना रहे हो, क्यों बना रहे हो,
well, see,
and
the
how
clarity
you
is-
fill the gap.
Clarity comes on time. I think
Yeah.
that all business is iterative.
Yeah.
You have to try and see what clicks with your audience. The more you figure out what clicks, then you do more and more and more of that. To say that पहले दिन आपको answer आएंगे कि this will work or that will work is not. At least it hasn't worked for us.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to know initially.
Yeah.
Your customer will tell you what you need to.
So
do.
what you feel you'll put out there versus what they will like. Can be
Yeah,
quite
very different.
So which parts of India, as in, are reflective in your product? As in, which part do you feel is the most artistic, and you get it made from there, and you're very happy with that area?
It's different materials that will have different that are specialized in different products. Like she was saying that Muradabad is for metal. Then Rajasthan, like we go to like
For
Jaipur and
textiles.
stuff for textiles. The South also for textiles. Then we get our ceramics done from Baroda, like our bone china.
So India is quite a treasure hunt of a place.
Yeah,
है
but
ना?
it's hard to work in India for production.
We
Well,
choose to do it here because again, it's
So
something that
vendors are not very forthcoming.
No, nothing like that. It's just that because everything is it's handicraft, right? It's all made by hand. There are lots and lots of delays that happen in production. No timelines are.
and then it's handmade, so then not everything looks the same. So there's a lot of rejection.
Lot of quality check.
Yeah.
Are you also selling abroad? Is it going overseas also, or it's a very hardcore Indian market right now?
Mostly Indian.
Mostly
market.
Indians. If we receive orders, then we service those.
Okay.
But we don't have a steady established distribution channel abroad yet.
Okay. So and how do you differentiate between decor and decoration? You know, वो कहते हैं ना मैं इसको decoration के लिए लाई, but decor should be separate. Am I right?
I
Is
guess
there a
decoration is something that maybe is more. It's not so much a core part of your house. Like a decor would be maybe your
whole
furniture
setup.
and a certain holding piece, like your painting and stuff. And then decoration is something like your cushion covers and stuff that can.
So
keep
do you get these
changing.
queries? You know, because we live. I think in one of your interviews you mentioned that we are in a very Pinterest generation that we
Yeah.
are dealing with. So do you get a lot of Pinterest feedback?
Yeah.
Can you create this? Can you
Yeah,
create
we get
that?
lots of pictures saying कि आपके पास है.
But does it motivate you to create it? Any new collection that you are
Not
No,
from those
inspired.
Not
pictures.
from Pinterest. Yeah, we mostly get inspired by things like if we see art or nature, that kind of thing. That
Indian fairy tales?
yes, in fact, we're trying to do like a wallpaper collection based on Indian.
On
fairy
Sundar
tales.
months.
Yeah.
Oh, that will be nice.
Yeah.
That will be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And reviving the Mad Teapot Cafe? No, not at all.
No, we realized that food is a very different animal and home is a very different animal, and we'd rather raise this pet for now.
Okay. So you're here today to tell us how to set the table. What is it about the table? Because in Indian households, TV lagaya, tray rakhi and khana khaya. You know, so and then everyone's just looking for the table. Dining table is largely kept ke fruits saja diya and namkeen ke boxes rakh diya. You know,
Yeah.
major middle class families are like that. But maybe with brands like you, they're becoming aspirational. You are an aspirational brand, right? So how do you set a table? A center table for the living room, side tables, and your dining table. How do you go about it? As in, what are the
So
tricks and tips?
usually like most people are setting, and the ones that we're talking about is like setting a meal table, right? Because I think Chandigarh people are really house proud. They have beautiful big homes, and I think a lot of hosting happens at home. So you have a lot of hosts and hostesses who love to have people over, and I think, you know, I'm half Punjabi, she's Punjabi. Well, we love to eat and drink. I mean, that's pretty much our vibe, especially to the rest of India, that we're big like eaters and drinkers and like to have a good time. So people like to have their friends over, and I think then we're talking about having a table which is the center of where your food will be when you're hosting. So how to create like a holding piece and to create a flow around the table that, you know, you'll have people come and, you know, eat and drink in a certain way, and just to create a table that has where people can come and gather together, but also obviously creates like points of eye-catching
Is it like very
themes.
Downton Abbey feel to it?
No, I would say it's more like a home with like a little bit of, you know, spark and feminine, you know, vibe
Energy
to
to
it.
it.
So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Chalo. And are you now? You are yourself in a very successful business. Are you investing? Are you investors and venture capitalists? Have you turned towards that?
Let's see, inshallah, in 10 years. Right now, it's still like very
We're
much,
still investing in the wishing chair.
very much about, yeah, what we're doing. And
Yeah.
But it's good that you're bootstrapped and you're doing it all on your own, which is rare, you know. So, what would you tell women entrepreneurs who want to come up, who want to leave their very boring, monotonous jobs and start a new career or life? What would be your greatest tip to them?
I would say do it. I mean, I think it would be the greatest self discovery and growth journey they would have. But just do it. Just know what you're doing and why you're doing, and have a great support system which will keep you sane through it all, because it's a pretty hard and lonely journey.
I mean, we're lucky we have each other. So if you have a good business partner who, I mean, if you can find a good business partner, that also really helps.
What was your lowest point? Like where you were like, shit, ye kya kiya humne?
I think that we opened a very fancy store in DLF Mall in Saket in Delhi.
Opposite the cinema, because there was a lot of footfall at the cinemas.
20 days before pandemic.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And we spent pretty much all of our money.
How did you survive
at
the
that time.
pandemic?
How do we survive? We actually started our newsletter then.
Yeah.
Because we actually didn't have, I mean, we couldn't come into office. We were at home.
Product couldn't move.
Our stores were shut. I
And
think
we were
then,
primarily an offline business
yeah.
before pandemic. So we started writing a newsletter. That's how the Viv and Ami thing came about to me, because
Okay.
those are nicknames, right?
Yeah.
And we started writing the delights of distraction, and we
And our website then
Yeah.
put much more work onto the website. So that started
so the
happening.
online business kept us afloat.
But yeah, but I mean, the first 6 months, you know, I guess everyone had
Everyone
that
had a
experience.
tough
It was
time. For
really
at least
tough
a year,
to
they had a tough
figure
time.
out. Yeah.
But you have a lot of success stories in those women, in the women team, the large women team that you're working. So, which has been your greatest success story amongst them?
Meaning?
As in, it's an all women led team, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, women craftsmen, even the handicrafts that they make. So, which has been your success story
So
amongst
I
them?
feel like there's a lady who works
Because
with-
you are also uplifting them economically, giving them a better.
I mean, yeah, it's a job for them, and
No,
it's
I
great.
feel like it's really nice to see some people grow and talent grow that works with you. We have a girl in our team. She joined us as an assistant store manager. She used to just help with gift wrapping and boxes and slowly we figured out she has a really good eye and can figure things out. So we trained her. She then went into visual merchandising. Now she's heading the content team. She does a lot of the video work, the photographs. She's just so talented. It's unbelievable that she was an assistant store manager. So there's a lot of growth. There's somebody who used to work with us and now heading a huge crafts organization independently on her own. So it's lovely to see people who come who've been part of this and then take
Gone
on
and-
bigger roles. Yeah.
And over the years, what have you found better? Should there be, because I was speaking with Wow Skincare, is also a very big brand. So he was online completely, used influencers, and the brand grew. But now aggressively he's trying to open stores. 40,000 that they've reached across stores in India.
Yeah.
So what is this craze of opening stores? Is it practical in today's age, digital age, ke online theek hai, or having a balance of
I
a
think you
store
have
is
both.
important?
I don't think the customer sees it as offline or online. I think you need to be omni-channel. You need to be wherever your customer is.
Okay.
Wherever that may be for you, they need to experience your brand. They need to understand your story. They need to want to come back to you again. So online, offline, the customer
And-
doesn't see it like that.
And they both have different advantages and disadvantages. I mean, at the store, you have a much more personal, intimate kind of understanding with the customer. They have, we make sure that our experience at the store is always really friendly. That's a no questions asked kind of return policy in a lot of ways. We have, and the whole idea of having an emotional connect and the events and everything that we hold at the store is what creates that. And then with the online, you have just much more access where, they get much more, it's about convenience and that kind of thing, and they can see photos of how things are styled. So they both have they both have their advantages.
Any preference for cities? Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 cities? Any preference for which city the store should open in? Because you might be seeing कि कहाँ popularity ज़्यादा है.
Well, we're going to open a store in Hyderabad very soon.
Okay.
So we're really looking forward to that. Other than that, no, I feel like
East.
India is really premium. The premiumization story of India is really coming about. We're getting a lot online, getting a lot of orders from tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. So for us, we don't see it as a city, which city or anything geographically like that. For us, there's a certain urbane woman that we're catering to. She has a certain statement that she wants to make about herself and how the world sees her, and that's who we want to cater to wherever she may be.
All right. And what about East India? I think there's a very evolved crowd there also.
We get a
Yes.
lot of online orders.
Should you plan to open a store there?
Let's see.
Yeah, let's see.
Why not?
Why not? All right. On that note, kudos to the women entrepreneurs and to more entrepreneurs in the future. Thank you, Viv and
Thank
Ami. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank
and
you,
wishing more
Bhargava.
products from you.
Thank you so much.
That's all from Just Talking. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.